first, I was wondering if the name of the conference should be design-driven or purpose-driven, because as an entrepreneur, everything for me is first and foremost serving a purpose. Not every company is lucky enough to have a purpose that sometimes is greater than its product itself, but that's our case, and I'm going to try to explain you how we apply purpose and we use our vision to make decisions, including in terms of design thinking. The first time actually that I referred, or I realized I was not 10 years old, but is when I read a few times actually my favorite book, which is The Little Prince. As you may hear it, I'm a little bit French originally, but The Little Prince actually had this moment when he asked this aviator to draw a ship in order to protect and eat some bad plants on his small planet. But that ship should be in a box, because otherwise the ship would eat the flower that he's in love with. And so eventually, as an answer to this question, please draw me a ship, the aviator designed that box. And so it's obviously a good way to show that purpose is sometimes hidden behind design, but it's also obviously the role of design to convey purpose, and sometimes beyond aesthetic, of course. So what's our purpose? Well, so BandsInTown indeed is the largest concert discovery app in the world. And we feel that, especially in this digital age, we feel that live music is one of the last tribal experience. Is also, in my opinion, one of the last resorts for freedom of speech. I say that very modestly, because speaking after NPR and podcasters and Spotify, we all contribute in several ways and shape or form into hopefully a broader understanding to it among each other, a little bit more tolerance, and so to improve this world. But I believe that in live music there's no barrier. You don't need to be signed by anybody. You don't even need to be hosted by a host on stage. You can just live your passion and express yourself. And that's why we believe that our mission is much broader, our purpose is much broader than our product. We believe that modestly we contribute to culture, we contribute to freedom of speech by helping all these artists that trust us to tour and to live their passion in live music. So now let's talk about design thinking, and what I tried is to take a few examples. So indeed, design thinking, you know that probably better than I do. It goes through several stages. I'm not here to teach you a lesson. For me, it's always a mean to an end. And it's part of a broader system. My slide. A broader system that revolves around the purpose and the values that is described before. And so that system and is around this brand, is around its values, is around its purpose, and that's how you build overhaul something that makes sense, both for, as far as we're concerned, our consumers, the concert goers, and we have 50 million concert goers today registered to the platforms, or our artists, and we have 510,000 artists registered to the platform, which are using it to engage and communicate with their fans. And when I say 510,000, it's the biggest to the most emerging ones. So let's try to define, and I'll take two examples of how we apply design thinking to make critical decisions to the success of BandsInTown. In 2011, 2012, when we decided to launch the mobile app, the recorded music was essentially dying, and I don't want to insult anybody here in the room, but at least it was a perception. It was never my belief, because I always believed that, especially due to social media, YouTube, there had never been more interest for music than ever before, and I'm sure that here as music is universal, everybody loves music, but the perception that music was dying, and indeed from a revenue standpoint, it was definitely clearly challenged. So artists could only make money through essentially live, and so at that time, 40% of the tickets were going unsold. It's to a certain degree is still a problem. It was a $2 billion missed opportunity for the artist. Just because also people and fans missed shows because they were not aware of these shows. And awareness was a big issue and is still a big issue in this industry. How many of us have felt that kind of weird feeling going to the office in the morning and hearing friends or colleagues talking about that great concert and that they missed, and that they were not aware of, and that they would have loved to attend. So the challenge really for us was at that time to see how could you meet and match essentially 2.5 million events out there. This is the number of events we have in our database globally, adding about 50,000 events per week, which is roughly what we do today, and that I guess this didn't change much. Together with the fans' music preference. Because in order to inform them, you had to find ways to do so. And today, in our database, the fans' music preference overall represent about 2.5 billion data points. And so I purposely took this one, which is an opportunity that our team, our data team actually in this case, took to play with my music DNA. I was like, no, don't play with it. What are you going to do? But that's what my music DNA looks like. It won't tell you lots of things that are very, very private. We have that actually for each individuals who join the platform and share with us some music preferences. Each planet or our artist actually, each colors our genre. So you could tell that I'm relatively diverse. I'm a big fan of underground electronic music and jazz, but I love all kind of artists and all kind of music. And so really that challenge is how do you meet the events with this kind of complexity? So from a design thinking perspective, we did think about it. We tried to ideate, prototype, implement. There was already obviously solutions out there, ticketing companies' websites, some competitors which existed at the time in various countries and stuff. So there were lots of opportunities actually to find tour dates in various contexts. What we decided to go for, and that was really a design decision, was to first and foremost build a push media versus a pull media. So a pull media is really Google search. You go to Google, you know what you're looking for, basically you know the keywords you want to look for, and that's pull. We, from a design point of view, decided to focus all our energy to be the best at push. So push meant that we had to develop an email strategy and also a mobile-first strategy and social, because mobile enabled push notifications, for example. And so that was really the bet that we made, that in order to increase the pie and make sure that fans are alerted whenever a concert is announced, it has to be, we have to create a sophisticated push system. So fast forward 2019, now we send about more than actually 100 million alerts per month, push notifications and email mostly. We grew from 0 to 50 million registered users with no marketing, so we never advertised BandsInTown, ever. Spent a dime in advertising these things. And we're adding about 500,000 new registered members every month. And that's purely organic, as I said. So that was the first decision that we made, hopefully trying to meet and fix something, a problem, which was, hopefully the promise was never miss a show again. But then we went back to design, obviously it's every day, but I'm trying to highlight another step that was an important step. So back to the thinking. And here identifying in 2016 with the rise of streaming music, which we were obviously a big fan of, the rise of, the fact that live music was a good way and the only way essentially to make money for the artist, the rise of the number of artists on tour, because there's never been as many artists on tour, which is great, as there are today. We kind of felt that plus millennials and Gen Z being very much focused on authenticity, experience, and connecting with artists as much as they connect with the music. And as far as I'm concerned, even though I'm beyond that, I love the artist as much as I love the music, and I'm sure you would understand that. Yes, there was now another type of problem, which is a lack of discovery, and that's a very, I think it grew over time, as much as traditional media got, lost some audiences, right? The days of MTV are, at least have changed, are gone, at least in terms of music. And still, live music now, in 2016, represented 60 to 80% of any artist's revenue. And it's still roughly the case, right? If you include... it's still roughly the case. So in that context, clearly live music became and is still today the best way to create engagement with fans. It's great to be identified and to have great numbers on Spotify and on the playlist and everything. But how do you get to that point? In fact, you start by being able to create a meaningful bonds with your fans, a meaningful connections. And by the way, for the artist, an important, a great brand. So how could we serve and help and facilitate discovery? That came from this idea of building our own recommendation engine. So created a big data team, and we decided to really go bold in trying to build something behind, if you want, the alert and the way we push notification and recommend. Now we're going to push recommendation. And that's a big, it's scary actually. It's scary from a design standpoint, it's scary from an impact standpoint, because what if you make the wrong recommendation, right? And what if people are not satisfied with these recommendations? So it took us about 2 years to fine-tune we had started a few things before to fine-tune this recommendation engine. Honestly, we tricked it a little bit so that definitely this recommendation engine is focused on facilitating developing artist discovery more than big artist promotion. I mean, we're always happy to help, and we do help sell, big artist tickets at Madison Square Garden. But we also much more proud. I was talking about freedom of speech. I was talking about cultural diversity. I think that this is brought first and foremost by emerging artists, by young artists, by new artists. So if you look back to our purpose and our mission, clearly we had to find a way to push developing artists, and we did that through the recommendation engine. So fast forward to 2019, we send about 500,000 people to ticketing companies each of every day. And out of that, in 2016, 36% of these people were going to shows, were checking shows of artists, of developing artists. In 2019, 50% are checking shows of developing artists, which means that each of every day we send 250,000 people checking shows of developing artists. And we're very proud of this improvement. We obviously, this is exciting for emerging artists, and that translated obviously into a very strong boost in ticket sale for this kind of artists. So lastly, and I see that my time is spot on. Lastly, and to conclude, obviously it had to please the fans and to please the artists. And so we do run several survey, and that's a way to check with data how obviously your design thinking and all these decisions that you make are working well. We have a net promoter score which is very high. So 90% of our fans would recommend BandsInTown to a friend. 76% see themselves using BandsInTown a year from now, as far as the fans. We are for close to 70% their most trusted sources for recommendation. 70% say that they first hear about a show from an alert from BandsInTown. And 66% said we're a good place to discover artists. In fact, 50% of our fans admit that they bought a ticket for an artist that they had never heard before, a BandsInTown recommendation. So that's a way to. I hope that this highlighted the journey in a very, very, very fast manner. But the message that I wanted to share here is that once you define your purpose, once you connect your passion with your purpose, then all the design thinking and the right decisions comes naturally. And that's as far as I feel that being an entrepreneur is always to stick to and lead teams and companies to meet their purpose. Hopefully, I showed you how we use some tools to get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I 100% agree that concept discovery is a huge pain point, and you have found such an innovative solution to solve it. I also think that another pain point in kind of the live music industry is to find people to go to concerts with, whether it is friends, maybe I don't know that another friend of mine is interested in the same concert, or colleagues, or even people that we don't know. Is that something that you're also thinking of at all?
It's a regular question. Thank you for asking. We are not working specifically on that. We're trying to continue to improve the concert discovery aspect of things. That's another side, if you want, of the experience. Hopefully, you can interact with people. What I like going to a concert is that this is such a communal experience. Obviously, it's hard to talk to your next door, to your neighbor, but that's what concerts bring, is these moments where we're all together. No religion, no sexual orientation, no origins, no CEO, no whatever. We're all here to celebrate artists, and so that's already something that brings people together.
Quick question for me. One, do you guys track where there are hotspots geographically of where concerts are maybe more well attended, or more folks are more interested in going to concerts? And if so, just would love to hear a little bit about that data.
Yes, we do publish actually local data showing you which cities. Last year we did that are buzzing in terms of genre and concerts. Your question leads me to say that the next thing we're working on is our own charts, showing locally which artists are buzzing as well. So yes, we do have very, very local informations like that, not only in terms of artists, but in terms of concerts and genre.
One question back on the right.
Hi, what are your top learnings from creating your own recommendation engine?
It's top learnings. It is as I said, it's a scary decision, because no matter how much the expertise we have, we probably have an amazing data set. We know music DNA out of 50 million music profile. We have all these events information. We have the artist information. I didn't mention that, but maybe I did. 500,000 artists are registered to the platform, so they all fill up a form. They all tell us things about their genre and everything. So we do aggregate a lot of data. Still, this recommending takes a lot of. It's bold. It's bold, and because it involves trust. If I recommend you a doctor, or I mean, hopefully it's lighter, it's less significant than recommending you a concert, but it's more significant. Sorry, but recommendation means trust between the person who recommends and the person who received the recommendation. So the efforts, the learning is probably that you might have the best technology, but what I was trying to convey is that your brain needs also to convey the trust to make this recommendation credible. That's probably the learning that I would like to emphasize.
All right, Fabrice, thank you so much. One last question for you. So when we caught up, I tried to ask your favorite concert, and you refused to answer the question. But we did talk about was how MSG largely makes a horrible concert venue. So any favorite concert venues in New York that you seek out and provide a great experience?
No. I had great experiences at the MSG. No. My thing is more small venues. I like warehouse in Brooklyn and stuff that are just ephemeral, if you allow me. But no, New York is full of actually amazing historical venues, and then there's stuff like Terminal 5, which are more vibrant. But that's Irving Plaza. The venue is an important thing. It's a context. And so that matters. It's part of the show. It also tells something about the artist. Now it tells also something about the crowd, who are you going to see over there. So each context is different. I saw Elton John at Madison Square Garden and loved it.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything. We really appreciate it.